Welcome back to another episode of the Even Your Dynasty Show. We got K-Man here with Ricky. Cody is on assignment. We're stepping in today. Isn't that what Kruk and Kipe always say?
Always, every time.
We're here to fill in doing the minor league update for the week. Might do this a little bit differently than Cody does, but just bear with us. We got some good stuff here. So I think we just dive straight into it. So there's been some little bits of slow starts to our four teams here in the minors, but some exciting highlights overall, some players that have stood out in particular. We're going to dive in on each one, some that kind of popped out to Ricky and I, and then kind of give a little bit more in-depth details and thoughts and go from there. So first things first, Sacramento, pretty much a slow start. Like I mentioned, they have started 2-4. There's been, some highs and lows with some players. We jotted down a few notes for some. I'm going to have Ricky kind of dive in on those a little bit, share some thoughts, some that have stood out both positively and negatively, particularly focusing on who's in the top prospects as far as the ranking is concerned in the system. So without further ado, who you got first, Rick?
Coming in first is going to be number 2 prospect Marco Luciano. Now, keep in mind, this is per the Baseball America prospect list for anybody that's wondering why he's still on there. So Marco Luciano had a little bit of a rough week. That first week, he had a home run to the opposite field. This week, he went 4 for 24, just 3 walks and 10 strikeouts. After Luciano is number 3, Carson Whisenhunt. Whisenhunt had one of the nicer outings of the week, one of my favorite ones. He had 6 innings pitched, 4 hits, no earned runs, no walks, 2 strikeouts. Biggest key here for me with Whisenhunt is his command. He has had 2 appearances so far this year, no walks on the season. That's a big one. Even if it means having a few less strikeouts, the big one for me was just no walks, showing that command, and then also mixing in a third pitch for me is like the huge one with Whisenhunt. So that was good to see. Next one is going to be Grant McCray, number 7 prospect. He also had a little bit of a slow week like Luciano. He went 5 for 24 with 3 walks and 9 strikeouts. He had no stolen bases or extra base hits this week. After that, we had number 8, Trevor McDonald. McDonald also had a rough week. He just had the 1 appearance through 1 inning. He gave up 4 hits, 3 earned runs, 2 walks, and 2 strikeouts. After McDonald is number 9, Mason Black. Black, however, actually did have a very nice appearance out of the pen. He finished a game with 4 innings pitched, gave up no hits, no earned runs, only allowed 1 walk, and had 7 strikeouts. So very good outing for Mason Black. He had good command in the 1 outing he had. His fastball had really nice ride on it, and the biggest thing for me was seeing him locate down around the knees. That was the biggest improvement for him, something we saw him struggle with up in San Francisco last year. Now, just a few more down in Sacramento. Carson Ragsdale coming in at number 17. He had 2 appearances, 5 innings pitched, 10 hits, 7 earned runs, 4 walks, and just 2 strikeouts. So he struggled a little bit coming out of the bullpen. Got to see a little bit more of an improvement from him. He's a little bit of an older prospect. At number 19, we have Wade Meckler. Due to injury, unfortunately, he did not play this week. He played the first 3 games of the first week. He actually has been reassigned back to Sacramento. So expect to see him play and be back in the Sacramento lineup this week. And then the last prospect for Sacramento is number 24 prospect, Carson Seymour. My second favorite outing by any Giants pitching prospect this week. He had 5 innings pitched, only giving up 2 hits, 0 earned runs with 1 walk and 5 strikeouts. And we actually just found out earlier today, Carson Seymour was named AAA PCL Player of the Week. So shout out to Carson. He had a good first outing as well. This was his second of the year. Really nice start to the year for him. So he's a guy on the 40-man roster and somebody we could possibly be seeing at some point in San Francisco later this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Overall, highs and lows. You want to mention Harrison briefly? See, no, he's not on the prospect list. Just curious if you had any thoughts about his performance.
Yeah, Kyle Harrison, I thought had a pretty nice rebound this week with his appearance. He had one appearance the first week. This one, he had a little bit better of a week. He had 4 innings pitched, only allowing 2 hits with 0 earned runs. Now, he did have 3 walks in 4 innings, but he did add in 6 Ks. Something Cody and I mentioned when we saw his outing was a little bit more crisp of a breaking ball. So that was nice to see. And then a theme we've seen his last couple outings has been him getting back to his normal velo, sitting around 93, 94 miles an hour with his fastball. So very encouraging. Somebody I think is very likely we end up seeing in San Francisco over the next couple of months, depending on what they decide to do with Landon Roop and Hayden Birdsong as far as their workloads go.
Yeah, 100% agree. I was just going to emphasize that the velocity. That's one of his, bigger things that's been criticized, especially all last season and this offseason. So it's been nice to see him have steady flow with the mid-90s fastball. So, yeah, overall slow start in Sacramento, but long season ahead. So it'll be a good one. Next up, we're going to slide over to Richmond, and they have had a very slow start. They are 0-3. There's a few players that have stood out. The big news as of today was Bryce Eldridge getting assigned over to Double-A Richmond. So it'll be nice to see how he does and performs over there. And I think that's kind of a move that majority of us expected that they were going to make. A lot of fans were torn whether he's going to start in Sac or Richmond. So, definitely not really a shocker in my opinion there. But I'm going to just pass it around to Ricky and let him dive in on, these handful of guys that really stood out in Double-A.
Yeah, so coming in at number 1 is Bryce Eldridge, who Dan just mentioned. He will be in Richmond, so that's why I included him on this list. Now, Richmond does have their first game of the week tomorrow afternoon. I don't know if Bryce will be playing in their first couple of games, but word is that he has been assigned to Double-A Richmond. So expect to see him hopefully by the weekend and getting in some games for Richmond. Now, I've heard and seen a lot of people wondering why Bryce has been assigned to Richmond, given he was in Sacramento at the end of last season. So just something to add on there is that Double-A tends to have a little bit higher end of prospects, and it's a pitcher's league over there. So the Eastern League is a better fit overall for Bryce, at least to start the season until he shows he can continue to dominate at that level. And then I think it's likely we end up seeing him in Sacramento later on in the season against a little bit lesser pitching, I would say. Next prospect is number 10, Joe Whitman. He is healthy, but he has not appeared in a game. Most of these lower level teams have only played in 3 games so far, so Joe Whitman has not made an appearance yet. So we should see him in the next couple of days getting an outing in there. Now, next prospect is number 13, Diego Velasquez. Velasquez is definitely one of mine and Cody's favorite prospects for the Giants. Very underrated. He had a nice steady week. This is pretty much what you always get out of Diego. He had 4 hits in 10 at-bats with 2 doubles, 2 RBIs, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, and 2 runs scored. No stolen bases for Diego this week, but expect to see a bunch more of those as the season progresses. Next prospect is number 16, Sabine Ceballos. Another one of our favorite prospects who a lot of Giants fans caught on to during spring training. He really tore up pitching in Arizona this year and really caught a lot of Giants fans' attention, and then carried that into the spring breakout game. He had a little bit of a quiet week this week, his first time being in Double-A, facing a little bit more difficult of pitching. He just had the 1 hit, which was a home run, through 12 at-bats this week with 3 RBIs, 3 strikeouts, no walks, and 2 runs scored. Number 26 is Trent Harris, a relief pitcher for Richmond. Trent Harris just had the one appearance in one inning, but looked really good. He had 3 strikeouts, so he struck out the side while giving up no runs and then just allowed 1 hit and 1 walk. So look for Harris to really break out this season. I fully expect him to end up making his way to Sacramento at some point in the first half of the season if he keeps pitching the way he's been pitching over the last year plus. And he could be honestly a sleeper candidate to maybe make an appearance in San Francisco by August or September. I think we all really like his stuff. Number 27 is Averson Arteaga. He had 1 hit in 12 at-bats, 1 double, 2 runs scored, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts. So it's really nice to see him add in those walks. He's definitely a glove-first player, very good defensive shortstop, but typically struggles a little bit at the plate. And then lastly, number 28, starting pitcher Jack Choate. He is a big, tall lefty, kind of throws from the side a little bit, kind of a la Madison Bumgarner. He had 3.2 innings pitched. He gave up 2 hits with no earned runs, 1 walk, and then 9 strikeouts. So very, very good debut for him. I think he's another one of the more underrated prospects in the Giants system. I talked about him a ton last season. He did really well for Eugene, and he's been consistently good the entire time he's been a pro. So expect him to have a really big season and continue to climb up the Giants prospect list. And that is all we have for Richmond.
Yeah. Definitely going to watch some Richmond games this year, especially with Bryce now healthy. So, and Ceballos, obviously, who had a just killer spring. So, yeah, lots of excitement there. We're going to slide over to Eugene, which in my opinion is probably the most fun team to watch in our system. They've started out decent, they're 1-2, only 3 games, small sample size, but in that small sample size, you've had a couple exciting players, Tibbs, Cox, etc., which Ricky will dive in. They definitely had a fun week. So, yeah, like I said, 1-2. I'm going to have Ricky kind of elaborate on some of these guys who stood out over the past week over there.
Yeah, a few breakout offensive performances for Eugene this week. Now, again, just keep in mind it was just the 3 games, so it wasn't a full week yet. Number 4, James Tibbs III. Very good week. Kind of carried over what we saw from him in the spring breakout game. Hard contact, really good quality at bats. So Tibbs went 4 of 10 with 5 runs scored. He had a double, a home run, 3 RBIs, 4 walks with no strikeouts. And that's the big key because he was very good when he debuted with the Giants in San Jose last year and then quickly got called up to high A Eugene. And once he got up to Eugene, really struggled at the plate. Ton of strikeouts. This week, we saw no strikeouts. And like I said, a lot of hard contact. So I think it's going to be a really big year for James Tibbs. I think he's going to prove a lot of doubters wrong. He kind of came in from the East Coast after getting drafted, didn't have a ton of time to get ready. They bumped him up quickly. I think it's going to be a huge year, and I fully expect to see him in Double-A Richmond by the end of the year. So hope to see Tibbs keep it up. Next prospect is number 14, Bo Davidson. He was one of the biggest breakout prospects of last season for the Giants. Was one of the better hitters in the second half for San Jose. He had 14 at-bats this week with 3 hits, a double, 3 runs scored, 1 RBI, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts, and no stolen bases. So he only had a 2.14 average this week. I think, Bo will settle in just fine. Give it a couple weeks as he adjusts to a little bit more difficult of pitching. And I think we'll see him show off his speed on the bases a little bit as well. So look for Bo to have a really nice season in Eugene. Next one up is number 18, Josh Bostic. He's a nice, hard-throwing, right-handed starting pitcher for Eugene. He was one of their best pitchers last year in San Jose. He had a really nice start to this outing this week, but ended up finishing off not as strong, unfortunately. He had 3 1/3 innings pitched with 3 hits, gave up 2 earned runs with 1 walk and 4 strikeouts. So 5.4 ERA in his season debut. But like I said, he started off really nice and then kind of just faltered right at the end of this outing. Look for him to have a big year for sure. And then lastly is number 23, Jonah Cox. Anybody that's familiar with him knows he was a speed demon on the bases last year, stole a ton of bags. He had 13 at bats this week with 5 hits, 3 doubles, a triple, 4 RBIs, 1 run scored, no walks, with 2 strikeouts for a 385 batting average. Look for him to steal a ton of bags this year. And if he keeps hitting the way he's hitting, I don't see any reason why we won't see him in Richmond very quickly as well. Already spent a ton of time at this level. Also, keep in mind, there are a lot of guys that should be at both San Jose and Eugene to start the season that are currently rehabbing in Arizona and should get assigned to different levels quickly. So I don't think it'll be too long before we see Jonah Cox get promoted to Double-A Richmond. Very good start to the year for him, though.
Yeah, that one game he had like 3 doubles. That was insane.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was one of the first 2 games.
No.
Really nice to see. So hopefully they get him up to Richmond and see how he handles a little bit more difficult pitching, because he's one of those guys. He is so fast and he's good in the outfield as well. He'd be nice to have up in San Francisco, even as just a bench piece on the bases, like at some point, maybe next season. I think he's a little too far away for this year, but look for him next season if he can continue to hit well down in the minors.
Yeah, his speed and his glove can be a weapon. Shout out to that trade that we made for him. If you know, you know. All right, I'm gonna slide over to San Jose. Another one of those slow starts, 0-3. A handful of guys definitely stood out. One of our friends of the channel, one of my personal favorite prospects in the system, Jacob Christian, had a booming RBI double recently, which is really great to see. Just top spin it would have gone out if he, got a little bit of backspin on that. But regardless, that thing had some pop to it. So shout out Jacob there. And there's a few other guys that Ricky had jotted down that he's going to kind of touch on a little bit more as well. So go ahead, take it away.
Yeah, first one for San Jose is the local boy, Robert Hipwell, at number 20 out of University of Santa Clara. He was one of last year's draft picks. Pretty much got drafted and instantly reported to San Jose, being that it's right in his backyard. He's originally from Santa Cruz. He had a little bit of a slow week. He didn't play in all of their games. He just had the 2 games, 6 at-bats. He had 2 walks with 3 strikeouts, 1 stolen base, and 1 run scored. Hipwell's a nice lefty hitter. He has a little bit of pop in his bat, plays a solid third base. Look for him to have a solid year. He did well in San Jose last year, so I don't see any reason why he won't continue that success as the season goes along. Next up is number 22, Jose Ortiz, speedy little center fielder, very good defensive outfielder, probably the best in the system, in my opinion, at least. We saw a little bit of him in the spring breakout game, was pretty solid for them in that game. So he had 4 hits in 11 at-bats with a double, 3 runs scored. He didn't walk, but he had 3 strikeouts and no stolen bases. Ended up with a 364 average through the first week of the season. I fully expect to see him get those stolen base numbers up and have a nice season for San Jose. After Jose Ortiz is number 25 prospect, Jacob Bresnahan. He's a big, tall lefty starting pitcher for San Jose. He actually ended up starting in their first game of the season. He pitched 4 innings, gave up 4 hits with 3 earned runs, 1 walk, and 5 strikeouts. Now, Bresnahan was acquired last year in the Alex Cobb trade. He's got really good stuff. I'm a big fan. The main thing with him is just going to be keeping the walks down. That's always going to be his biggest issue, which he did in this outing. He also had the 5 strikeouts. That was really nice to see. Hoping to see him have a big year because he did really well in Cleveland's system last year. And then once he got traded to San Jose, he struggled a little bit with the command. So as long as he gets his command together this year, I think he'll have a really nice season. Now, the last guy on the prospect list for San Jose is number 29, Lisbel Diaz. One of my personal favorites. He had 2 hits and 12 at bats, 1 double, no walks, and 3 strikeouts. So a little bit of a rough week for Lisbell, but he's overall been a very consistent prospect at the plate for the Giants since they signed him as an international guy, kind of underrated, did really well in the complex league last year, and then finished the year really strong in San Jose. So I expect to see him have a really nice year this year. He's another guy that was in the spring breakout game. Believe he had a couple hits in that game. Wasn't as sharp defensively in left field when we saw him play in that game, but I expect him to hit well this year. Hopefully see him finish up the second half of the season in high A Eugene. And then lastly, while he is not on Baseball America's prospect list, Walker Martin was another one I had that I wanted to mention. He had a slow week, just played in the 2 games. He went 0 for 8 with 2 strikeouts. So I fully expect to see Walker pick it up. He did have a home run in that exhibition game against the Oakland Ballers. That was nice to see. I fully expect to see him adapt a little bit more to that level. The main point I have for Giants fans on him is just be really patient with this guy. The year he got drafted, he was hurt coming out of high school, so he didn't play that first season. So his development was delayed a little bit, and he was a little bit more of an older prospect for a high school kid. And then last season, he started to really pick it up and show his power down in the complex league before finishing out the season in San Jose. So just be patient with this kid. He has a ton of upside. His power is great. I fully expect to see him really take off at some point this year. With him, it's always just going to come down to keeping down the strikeout rate. So that's what I had for San Jose.
Yeah, good stuff. I mean, overall, like I said, it's early in the year. There's a lot to be excited about and encouraged about from what we've seen out of these young guys. There's some exciting players in the system. It's one of those things where, Cody, Ricky, and I have all agreed that it's definitely underrated when it comes to experts rankings. So, just in general, be excited, guys. It's going to be a fun year. There's a lot of good talent, especially in the lower levels. And, just overall, it's been a fun start to the season. I just want to, keep seeing these guys progress, keep seeing these entertaining highlights and games come out, and hope to see some of these guys rise up to the levels, sooner rather than later.
Yeah, my main takeaway from this week is just don't be alarmed by the high strikeout numbers. It's just like we say sometimes with these major league teams. First couple weeks, the hitters are a little bit behind. The pitchers have an advantage. Just give it a couple of weeks as these hitters adjust, because a lot of times they're playing in these, complex league type games in spring training against other minor league teams. The competition's varied. So just be patient with the hitters, I would say. I think it'll come together. And like I mentioned, there's a lot of guys still rehabbing that haven't been assigned to a level yet. You're going to start seeing that over the next couple of weeks as some of these guys were just a little bit behind, maybe some of them rehabbing minor injuries. So just wait for that. We also have the Arizona Complex League where some of our top prospects will be playing as well. That starts in May. So we'll update you guys when that comes around as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's basically what we had for you guys today. As we stepped in for Cody, he will be back next week with next week's updates. So we're gonna be at the game this Wednesday, so it'll be cool to catch a live one and hang out with the fellas and whatnot. But we'll have a bunch of updates for you guys throughout the week. Live show should still happen this Friday, and then hopefully we'll see how that goes. It might just be me and Ricky, so we'll touch base and see how that all plays out. But other than that, yeah, fun week. Looking forward to the rest of the season. Love doing these little updates with you guys and talking ball in general. So that's all that I had. Ricky, you got anything else?
No, go Giants. 8-1 so far.
Yes, sir. Go Giants. Love to see it. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, send it to all your friends, family, coworkers, neighbors, ex-girlfriends, whomever. Other than that, go Giants. Have a good rest of your day, guys, and we will catch you guys in the next live show.